Bandidos? What up? Today we're jumping into some huge news that's got the community buzzing. Ubisoft just teamed up with Tencent in a massive deal. But here's the real talk. This could seriously shake up the Division franchise, and not everyone's gonna like it. Is the Division 2 about to get ignored? Could the Division 3 get scrapped? And are we looking at a future full of annoying microtransactions? Stick with me, we're breaking it all down. No doomsayer nonsense, no fanboy toxic positivity. If you want rainbows blown up your ass, there are channels that'll do that for you, but here you can expect real talk and what all this mess means for you as a player. Let's do this.
Wait, did we just become best friends? So nice to meet you. I think you're cool.
Piece of shit wristwatch.
Oh man, so much to go over. Let's start with the basics of this deal. So Ubisoft is splitting off a new company, a subsidiary that's going to handle three of their heavy hitters: Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. Tencent, that giant Chinese company
What's happening, hot stuff?
behind games like PUBG, is dropping 1.16 billion euro. That's over $1 billion for a 25% stake in this new subsidiary. But here's the kicker. The Division franchise, including the Division 2 and the potentially upcoming Division 3, isn't part of that subsidiary. It's staying with Ubisoft's main crew. So you might think, cool, the Division's safe. Right? Not exactly. There's more to this story, and it's got some sneaky side effects. So, how this hits the Division. First off, let's talk direct impact. Since the Division isn't in this new subsidiary, Tencent can't just swoop in and start calling the shots on it. No instant changes to how it's made or how it makes money. That's a relief, yeah? But hold up, there are indirect ways the deal could mess with the Division, and that's where it gets dicey. One huge worry is microtransactions. Tencent loves squeezing cash out of players. Look at PUBG Mobile or Crossfire. Those games are packed with loot boxes, battle passes, you name it. The Division 2 has some microtransactions already, like outfits and season passes, but it's pretty chill compared to Tencent's style. Now, if this new subsidiary starts making bank with crazy monetization, Ubisoft might think, hey, let's try that with the Division 2. Loot boxes with overpowered guns or a battle pass, you basically have to buy to keep up. That sucked for a lot of us who like the game's vibe as it is. But here's a ray of hope. Tencent doesn't always go hard on every game they touch. They own a big chunk of grinding gear games who makes Path of Exile, and that game's still mostly cosmetic stuff, no pay to win nonsense. Same with Epic Games, 40% of that's Tencent's, and Fortnite's microtransactions are mostly skins. So maybe Ubisoft won't let the Division turn into a cash grab, fingers crossed. Alright, let's break down how resources tie into the Division 2. Ubisoft's got only so many people, so much money and marketing juice to throw around, and with this new subsidiary focusing on Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry, there's a chance the Division 2 might get sidelined. More likely, with fewer developers, less budget, weaker marketing, it could mean slower updates or patches that take forever, which is insane because updates are barely crawling as it is. For a live service game like the Division 2, that's a death sentence. You need fresh content to keep players coming back, but to see why that matters, we need to look at how new content, like seasons, drives player numbers. Check the data. The Division 2 was added to Steam on January 12, 2023. I point to this because Ubisoft doesn't typically share player numbers for consoles or PC, so we're gonna use Steam. In March 2025, the Division 2 was hovering around 4,000 to 5,000 concurrent players on Steam. Then bam, during the Steam Spring Sale, it hit 8,467 players on March 16. That's no coincidence. Sales help, but new content drops are the real fuel. For instance, Ubisoft rolled out Season 3 on February 25th. Likely that plus the spring sale on Steam contributed to the nice little player hike. Look back at December 2023. Year 5 content had launched, the winter event for the game was going, and the player count jumped 48%. Same story in November 2024, an 88% surge, likely tied to a new season or event. The pattern's clear. New seasons or big updates, especially paired with a sale, bring players flooding back. But here's what you need to pay attention to, and what a lot of other people who are analyzing this data miss. After the hype fades, numbers drop. By late March 2025, it was back to 48-27. Still decent, but not groundbreaking. Here's the deal. Live service games like the Division 2 thrive on consistent updates, but seasons are so long in the Division, by mid to late season, the player base consistently hits all-time lows. We barely get updates. We don't hear anything from the devs until the season finale. If Ubisoft shifts resources to the subsidiary, say pulling devs to work on other games, those content drops could slow down, and they're already slow. Fewer seasons, repeat seasons, or even longer seasons, or smaller patches mean fewer reasons for players to log in, and that player count could crater, even more than it already does. At over 6 years old, The Division 2 still has a loyal crew. Thousands play daily across platforms, but without steady resources to keep the content flowing, it's at risk of fading out. Let's get into The Division 3. They're not giving us any official news on this game yet, just whispers that it's being worked on. That's bad news with this deal in play. Games that are fresh in development are easy to push back or straight up cancel when a company's juggling priorities. If the subsidiary's titles start killing it, say Assassin's Creed blows up, Ubisoft might shift all their focus there and leave The Division 3 collecting dust. Budgets get tight, early projects get cut. This is a real risk, and as a long-term fan, that worries me. So what's Tencent done before? Let's compare. They bought most of Grinding Gear games, and Path of Exile got better, more stable, bigger, no crazy monetization shifts. Epic Games got Tencent cash too, and it helped them build Fortnite into a monster, still with creative control. In those cases, Tencent was more like a rich uncle handing out money, not a bossy overlord. But this deal's different. Tencent only in on the subsidiary, not the whole Ubisoft pie. That could mean less pressure on the division to change, which is good, but it also means the subsidiary might hog all the good stuff. Developers, marketing, budget, leaving the division scrambling. It's a weird setup and it could go either way. Now let's peek inside Ubisoft. The execs are hyping this deal with Tencent and the new subsidiary, but the vibe on the ground is tense. The big shots are saying, oh, this is gonna spark creativity, but some workers are sweating. Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson dropped an article that spills the tea. Employees are uneasy. They're stressing about layoffs, slashed budgets, and what this means for their projects. And they've got a point. Ubisoft's been shaky before. In 2022, they axed games and cut staff to save money. If that happens again, the division teams could take a hit. Nobody knows how this lands yet. Look, this isn't just drama. It could mess with the games. Uneasy devs worried about their jobs might lose focus or morale. That leads to slower updates, less polish, or even talent bailing for other studios. We've already started to see this on social media. Check your Twitter feed. For The Division 2, think delayed patches or weaker seasons. For The Division 3, still in the background, it could mean development is shelved or gets canned entirely. So how likely is this deal to hurt the division? What's the risk? Let's throw some numbers out. I'd say there's a 60% chance the franchise takes a hit in the short term. Why? Tencent's cash could stabilize Ubisoft and keep things rolling. But if the subsidiary hogs resources, the division, not a top tier franchise like Assassin's Creed, will get the shitty end of the stick. This is an ongoing pattern for the Division franchise. It wouldn't be the first time this happens. In fact, this always happens. For the Division 2, it's got 4,000 to 5,000 daily Steam players, plus more on console, and it's still profitable. So even though the Division 2 gets the shitty end of the stick, Ubisoft won't ditch it lightly. But the Division 3, that's riskier. I'd say about a 40% chance it gets delayed or even scrapped. Early in development games are easy targets when priorities shift because of major transitions like this one. But what are the experts saying? Well, the experts are split. Daniel Ahmad from Nico Partners sees this as a win. He says Tencent's money could let Ubisoft invest more in games like The Division. Optimistic take? Cash flow keeps the franchise alive. But Michael Pachter from Wedbush Securities isn't sold. He thinks the subsidiary could hog the spotlight, leaving the division underfunded. Both make sense. Ubisoft could spread the wealth and thrive, or they could double down on the subsidiary and let other titles slip. The stock market's jittery too. Shares spiked after the deal, then dipped. That uncertainty might push Ubisoft to favor the subsidiary over riskier bets like The Division. So what's the bottom line? This Ubisoft Tencent deal is a double-edged sword for the division. The cash could steady Ubisoft and maybe even boost the division if they play it right. But there's a big chance resources get sucked into the subsidiary, leaving the Division 2 high and dry and the Division 3 in limbo. And because Ubisoft keeps their cards close to their chest, it could be some time before we even realize that any of this is happening. And yeah, microtransactions microtransactions could creep in harder if Ubisoft gets greedy. Real talk, we gotta watch Ubisoft closely. Pay attention to X or Twitter and look at what employees are saying, how many of them we see leaving key studios that support The Division. And keep an eye out for headlines talking about Ubisoft streamlining or doing layoffs for more agile processes. But if they balance everything, The Division might thrive. If they drop the ball, the player base could fade and the series might take a hit. It's up in the air, and as fans, that's nerve-wracking. What's your take? You think The Division's future is grim, or do you think it'll be fine? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk it out. Catch you next time.
Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Tuxedo Bandido, and if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the good stuff I have coming for you. And if you like content like this, be sure to check out the video I have recommended for you right here. If you have anything you would like me to cover, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make things possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be the same without you.
When you buy a game from Ubisoft, enter the creator code Tuxedo Bandido to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Wait, did we just become best friends?